features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's a hot afternoon, everybody, and this eagle's come down to drink. And this is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Look at this, everybody. It's a really warm afternoon, and welcome to Safari Live. This is incredible. We've got an eagle, it looks like a yellow-billed kite, that has come down to drink at the waterhole. There it goes. Yellow-billed kite, beautiful eagle. See that long, very square tail? Almost like a fork. And again, a very good and warm welcome to everybody. Welcome on Safari Live for this afternoon's Sunset Safari. And you with myself, Byron, and Dave on camera. And we've got Taylor and Viam on the other vehicle. And then Steph and Brian on a walk this afternoon. Welcome to the ladies in the final control and all our viewers. And a special welcome to Windsor Oaks Elementary. Lovely to have you school kids with us again. Mrs. Newberry and Mrs. Hubble, it's great to have you with us. And just remember, everybody, you are live, and please send us your questions at hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or otherwise email us questions at WildEarthTV. I thought we'd start the afternoon off by coming and checking these water holes. It is very hot this afternoon. It's about 35 degrees Celsius or about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Very hot. And we thought we'd see what came down to drink, and we got that yellow-billed kite, which was amazing. There are also some Hadada ibises drinking at the waterhole now, and also looking for insects around there. You can see they're sticking their beaks in the mud, possibly trying to find some food, worms or any little insects. It was really lucky to see that kite come down and drink water. I think it's because it's so hot, even the birds need a bit of water. That was a lovely start. That was really great. So our plan for this afternoon is we're going to carry on checking some of these little water holes and see if we don't have animals like elephant or buffalo nearby. Because it's been so warm, compared to this morning, the temperature's increased quite a bit. And because it's been so warm, I'm sure a lot of animals have been heading down to the water to feed, to drink, sorry, not to feed, to drink. And hopefully we get to see some activity around there this afternoon. So we're going to drive around and look for that. We're also going to search for a leopard. Perhaps we will get lucky and find a leopard that's possibly resting in the shade of a tree, or if we're really fortunate, even up in a tree. That would be wonderful. We're going to start driving around and looking for all these animals. And while we do that, my friend Steph would like to say hi to all of you. He's on the bushwalk.
I absolutely do want to say hi to you and welcome to the bushwalk. My name is Steph, and on camera today we've got Brian, and this is his little surprise all for you. Guess what that is? That's his thumb, and he's painted it just for you. Brian paints a thumb all the time, you see, and it's become quite a celebrity, this little thumb of his. What are we here to do? We're on foot in the same place that Byron is driving around in, and you'll meet Taylor a little bit later. We're walking around, we're trying to show you all the little things in the bush. Well, sometimes there's some big things as well. Sometimes we chased up termite mounds, like this one here, by buffalo and by elephant and by a variety of other things, but we're going to try and avoid that embarrassing thing today, and we're just going to sort of concentrate on all the interesting things. Right off, one of the best places to look for interesting things is obviously underneath pieces of bark. Now for all of you kids out there, I want you to learn how to pick up a piece of bark. What you never do is you never stick your fingers underneath a piece of bark, because you don't know what's going to be underneath there. So we don't do that. What we do is we try and pick it up, and never ever towards us. So there's the two big don'ts. Don't put your hands underneath, don't lift it towards you. We always put our hands on the top and we lift it away from us. Alright, so I'm going to do that again for everybody. You put your hands on top and you lift away from you. And that way, if there's anything here that is scared of you, rather than running at you, it can run away and run to a safe place. What are we looking for underneath here? Well, scorpions and spiders and snakes and snails. And let's see what we can see here for you. Right there, oh, there was. That there is a daddy long leg spider. But now I've chased that daddy long leg spider because I was a bit careless and some sand fell on it. Where are you now? There we go. No, still running away from us. Shame, I gave that one a bit of a fright. And because I gave it a fright, we're going to respect it. We don't just kill spiders. Remember that spiders are our friends. And we'll leave that one alone for a little bit, and let's carry on looking underneath. There's a big piece of bark. Let's go and look over there. Come on. Now remember what I said? We don't stick our fingers underneath, and we move the stumps and the bark away from us, right? Let's see what we've got underneath here. Oh, there we go. There's a grasshopper that looks just like the ground. Look over there. Whoa, there was a grasshopper. Here we go. There's a grasshopper camouflaged to look just like the stumps. Why is it camouflaged? That's a good question, even if I am asking it to myself. Insects are camouflaged so they can hide away. So camouflaged means that it looks like the surroundings. So to be camouflaged is to hide away in the surrounding bush. And have a look, he's camouflaged the same color as the stump he's sitting on. Look at that. And they hide away because they don't want to be eaten, right? Alright, let's carry on looking what we've got. So we've got one grasshopper so far. And we've got some mites. These are little creatures called mites. Ooh, and a very, very poisonous spider. I almost touched that. Wow, come and have a look here. That is a violin or a recluse spider, and they are some of the most poisonous spiders or venomous spiders that we have in South Africa. That there, the recluse or violin spider, and you definitely don't want to be bitten on the finger by that one. Wow. Now James, you've asked, is this spider a tarantula? James, that spider is not a tarantula. We do have tarantulas out here. We call them baboon spiders. That spider was called a violin spider, or I think you get them in North America. They're called recluse spiders. Very dangerous. You let that one bite you, you get a big sore. It takes months to get better. So you don't want to do that. And that's one of the reasons why we don't stick our hands underneath the bark. We just on top and away from you, right? Now let's see where this recluse spider went to. Probably just went into the shade here, yes. Come and have a look here. Now, Eliza, you've asked me, how do grasshoppers fly? It's very easy. They jump into the air using their back legs, and then they have wings. They've got 2 hard wings in front and 2 soft wings at the back. The hard wings come out into the sides and help them to steer, and the back wings create lift by flapping very, very fast. So they got 4 wings, 2 that are hard and stick out to the side, and 2 that are soft that stick out to the back. The ones at the front steer, the ones at the back flap and create lift. Hopefully that answered your question. I see that this recluse spider is not wanting to be in the sun today. And believe me, it is so hot here, I can absolutely believe them. Look at my shiny bald head, it's busy sweating like a beacon. Lots of water coming out of my head today. So we're going to put the stump back. Why do we put the stump back? Because this is animals' homes, hey. We don't want to scare these animals any more than what we need to. So we're putting this back exactly where we found it, and there they have their home back. Alright, we're going to carry on with our walk and see what other things we can find here. Alright, so on that note, and while we walk through this bush, we are going to send you over to Byron, who's got an update for you.
It's so great that Steph's out there finding all these little creatures. We've had a lot of rain recently, a few days ago, so all those little animals are quite active at the moment. We're driving around and trying to see what we can find, but it's very, very hot. We saw some Impala in the distance, but all hiding in the shade, in the thicket line, in the trees, or behind the trees. We're trying to see if we can't find a leopard lying in the shade of a tree, or maybe in the tree. That would be wonderful. Usually, because there's a cool breeze higher up, leopards do occasionally go and lie down in a tree to get that cool breeze and rest there for the day. And Savannah has asked us a question. Savannah would like to know, are there bears in Africa? No, Savannah, we don't have any bears. So not in Africa. While I'm driving, also trying to have a look for any tracks of animals. Animals that may have moved around during the day. Maybe after our game drive, something like leopard or even lions that was still moving around. It was cool until about 10 o'clock this morning, and then the temperature really started to warm up and get very, very hot. And that's usually when these animals then go and look for shelter, and they try and hide out of the sun and rest for the day, and later when it gets cooler again, they'll then start moving. So just like us, when it's very, very hot, we prefer sitting in the shade and resting. Unless we're on the beach, of course. So as we're driving, I'm trying to move into areas that I think might be a little bit cooler. So we've got these places known as drainage lines. So that's a low-lying area, and usually that's the place that water will basically collect when it does rain, almost like a dry little riverbed or a creek. And we call that a drainage line. And there's one just off to the right. You can actually see the thick dense bush. And that's perfect areas for animals to hide in, like leopards, because it's much cooler there. We had a very exciting morning, everyone. We followed some lions, a male and a female, and these lions came across a group of Impala and tried to hunt them. The lioness lay down. Oh, hang on, there's some animals just off to our left. Hopefully it stays there. There's a beautiful Impala. Look at this, everyone, a big male Impala. And you see, as I was saying, a lot of these antelope, like the Impala, all staying in the shade, trying to hide from the sun. But look at that, that's a beautiful, beautiful male Impala. It's got the beautiful big horns. The females don't have horns. And Van has just asked us a question, and Van would like to know, what type of food do the leopards eat? And Van, this Impala would be ideal for a leopard. Leopards do like to hunt Impala. And the reason for that is because a leopard is solitary, which means it lives by itself. They don't need too much food, but a big full-grown Impala like this is perfect for them. And they can feed on one this size maybe for 2 days. So a long time. And they don't have to share with anybody or any other leopards, any other animals. And they will eat something like this or any of the other antelope species we have in the area. You can have everything from the small steenbok, a very small antelope, even up to perhaps a young kudu, which is one of the larger antelope we have around in this area. But as you can see, they're all staying in the shade. It's very, very warm, so they're very clever. They'll stay out there or stay in the shade of the trees and try and feed, and as it cools down, they'll start moving around a lot more later. As I was telling you this morning, we had a very exciting morning with the lioness and a male that were watching some Impala and trying to hunt. And this lioness got very, very close to these Impala. She was lying down and as flat as she could, so she wouldn't be seen. And these Impala walked close, and she didn't see a young Impala, baby Impala, come very close to her. And as she saw it, she was a little bit too late, and the little Impala ran away. And the lioness tried to chase, but it just wasn't fast enough. And luckily, the Impala got away. And we've got a question from Harley, and Harley would like to know, do we have any giraffe in the area? We do indeed. We do have many giraffe, and hopefully we'll find some for you this afternoon. You would think it would be easy to find giraffe. These beautiful tall animals, you'd think maybe they stand out above the trees, but it's not always the case. Sometimes it is difficult to find these animals because the tree is also very tall, and now with all these leaves that are currently coming out because of us moving into summer, it can make it a bit difficult. Even elephants can be hard to see sometimes. Just a lot of little Impala tracks along the road, so there are a lot of Impala around, and that's good because they are a good food source for some of the other predators. So lion and leopard will definitely try and hunt them. So if there's a lot of Impala, or if there's lots of food in general for the predators, then the chances of seeing them are also a lot better. Now we've got to a spot where there's a very, very deep drainage line just beyond me over here to the right, and this looks ideal for animals to go and lie in. Much cooler down there, so I'm having a very, very careful look. We're going to carry on looking very carefully around this area, and while I do that, I know Taylor would love to say hello to you.
Good afternoon. Finally we made it out after we managed to get Wendy up and going again. She's out of hospital, so she's going for her first spin after being off for a couple of weeks. Now, if you're unfamiliar with who I am, my name is Taylor, and on camera with me this afternoon we've got Vim, and I have to say a big hello to all the lovely children at Windsor Oaks Elementary School, as well as Mrs. Newbury and Miss Hubble. Hello to all of you. Remember, you're welcome to ask us as many questions as you can about all the different animals. Now, yesterday we were lucky and we got to see some lions. Today, I want to try and show you a leopard. So I'm going to try and beat Byron to finding us a leopard. This morning, we were very lucky and we managed to find a big boy leopard. A really, really big one that lives around this area. So we're going to go back to where he was last seen and see if he perhaps isn't sleeping in the shade somewhere. It's very, very hot today. I can't imagine that any of the cats would really be moving around too much. I know the only thing that I wanted to do today was spend the afternoon in the refrigerator or the freezer. Now, as we're driving around here, I know a couple of you, and especially Kia, is wondering if the animals are dangerous towards us in the cars. Now, luckily for us, we're not. The only time they become dangerous is if you don't respect them. So you must be able to read the animal's behavior, its body language. And this way, and this is what we are really well trained in, we go to school to learn about animal behavior, and the animals will tell you when they get cross with you or angry with you, and then you have to decide, do you move away or do you have to stand your ground? But typically in the vehicle we're relatively safe. We can outrun most of the animals, but we don't ever want to upset them. So if they say to us, oh, we're not happy today, maybe have something happened, maybe someone stood in a thorn and is very grumpy, well, then they'll tell us and we go, okay, Mr. Elephant, no problem, and we move away. And then we can go and find some more elephants that are happy to see us. But I'd like to hear from you who would like to see what animal today. Obviously, it's quite difficult to just try and find any ones at your request, but it'd be nice to know what everyone would be excited to see. Like I said, we're also going to go up ahead and just check a watering hole on our way towards where that male leopard was last seen, and perhaps we will see something in the water, maybe wallowing in the mud, trying to keep nice and cool. But so far, not even an impala. Right, I think we're going to very quickly go across to Byron, who's got a little Pumbaa for you.
I have indeed. Look, everybody, a warthog just before it moves behind that tree. And that warthog was just rolling in some mud, trying to cool down. You can see there, it was just in there. But let's see if I can move forward a little bit for you, get another view of it. Oh, look, everybody, there's a hippo behind it. Look at that. Wow, that is interesting. Hang on, let me see if I can get another view quickly for you. That is very interesting, everybody, because a hippo is usually in the water during the day, and especially when it's so hot. And they don't like to be seen when they're out of water. They are quite shy. And I wonder why this hippo is still out of the water, because it is very, very hot. So let's see. Let's have a good look around here. Where did it go? You'd think it would be very difficult. Here he is, just off to the right. Wow, isn't that amazing, everyone? And I might get another view of him. Look how big it is. You can see he is a little bit shy and doesn't really want to show himself. But that's why I say it's very interesting to see this hippo out of the water. It's very hot. The hippo have actually got very sensitive skin, and they don't like to be baked in the sun for too long. It looks like he's moved off. I don't think we're going to get another view of it. Yeah, it's moved through very, very thick bush. We can hardly see it. I can't see it anymore. But I wonder if that hippo wasn't in that little waterhole that warthog was in, and maybe lying in the mud a bit, and for some reason decided to get up and maybe move into some shade, because that waterhole was quite open. Maybe it's getting a little bit too hot for him. So possibly moving into some shade, trying to hide out of the sun, and probably go and return to the water at a later stage. But it's interesting, the hippo, they don't eat any food in the water. They have to go out and look for food. They eat grass. So they walk huge distances looking for food, and especially now, we've had a very, very dry season, and there's not a lot of grass around. We've had a very dry winter. So all the kids watching, it's winter down in southern Africa. Well, it was winter. We're now moving into spring and into summer, so it's getting very, very hot now. But in winter, we don't have lots of vegetation growing, lots of food for the animals. So some of these animals now have to walk even further to look for food. And Jeremiah has asked us a question about the hippo. Jeremiah would like to know, does a hippo have horns? And no, Jeremiah, a hippo does not. It does not have horns at all. But what they do have are what look almost like big tusks. They are really big teeth in their mouths, and some of those teeth can get to about this length. Very, very long teeth. Two in the bottom and two in the top, and they've got two that point forward and two at the top that point forward. Just trying to see if I can get a glimpse of that hippo again. It's definitely moved off. So Jeremiah, those long sharp teeth of the hippo are basically there for protection, not because they needed to eat the grass. It's if the hippos fight with each other, and they often do when they are fighting for territory around a waterhole, or perhaps if the males are fighting for territory and dominance for the females. But the let me just look back there quickly for a second. No, nothing. So Jeremiah, no horns, just really sharp teeth, big teeth, which they use for protection. And we need to be very, very careful if we do bump into any hippo, because they can cause serious damage if they do catch you. While we continue looking along this drainage line and these cooler areas, let's see what Steph has got on his walk.
We have found something very special for you. This is an assassin bug. Now, you can ask what an assassin is when you finished up with us, but what I want you to have a look at is that long, big, what we call proboscis on the front of them, their beak. You can have a look at that. That's where they get their name assassin from, is they have a long dagger that they spear into the heads of grasshoppers, and then they eat them. These are assassin bugs. Two of them. They are bugs, proper bug, and you can see the one on the top, he's got his dagger pointing down. It's just wiggling around a little bit. There's quite a wind blowing here where we are today. Maybe try these ones here, Brian. A little bit more, a little bit easier to. No, come. Where are you going? There you go. That's not shaking around as much. Just have a look at those beautiful colors. Bronze on the back and white and black along their sides with their tiny little heads, and then those long daggers. And they're sitting on these bushes waiting for other insects to come to this bush, and then they ambush them and eat them. Quite scary, eh? And these are quite big for assassin bugs. You probably find that they like to eat the biggest grasshoppers and the biggest beetles. And then we've got another beetle on this tree. Not a bug, this time a beetle. And this is one of my favorite beetles. Now, Alusa, I'll show you how big those bugs were in a second. This is one of my favorite beetles. It's called a fruit chafer. And this is a twin spot fruit chafer. And this beetle is sucking the juices out of this plant by biting into the top of it. Isn't that amazing? Now the tree is a big pump. Water evaporates off of the underside of the leaves, and it creates a big suction for water underneath the ground. And the tree can suck the water up from underneath the ground, and that is what the bug is busy sucking up right now, is the tree's juices. Now Lisa, let's go quickly back to your assassin bug, and I'll put my finger next to it so that you can see how big they are. Let's go this side. There's my thumb. I don't want to get my finger too close. They can poke me with their proboscis, and it's quite sore. Now my thumb is about as big as your two thumbs put together. Now, good stuff, you've asked me if they're shy. They are shy, Gustav. They have very good eyesight, and they can see us standing here, and every time... Oh, right, sorry, Gustav, can they fly, you've asked me, excuse me. Yes, they can fly, absolutely. These are wings that are folded on their backs, and they can open them and they can fly away. So if you want to know how big they are, put your two thumbs next to each other. That's how big my one thumb is two of yours. So quite big, hey? You don't want to wake up with one of these on your pillow. Now James, you've asked me how many eyes do these bugs have? James, they've got two compound eyes, and what that means is they've got two eyes, one on either side of the head, and they are made up of many different eyes, many smaller eyes. So a compound eye is one round eye made up of lots of small eyes, and they've got one compound eye on each side of their head. Maybe if we ask Brian to get you a little bit closer, it's going to be a bit tricky. We can even see those eyes glinting in the sun. Let's set a task here. Sorry, Brian, am I setting you up?
No, I'm close.
So there you can see, if you look closely at the eye, you should be able to see many small little eyes. And one day when you're exploring around your house and you catch a fly, have a look closely at the eyes of a fly and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Two big eyes that are made up of lots of small little eyes. Next time you catch a fly at home. All right, let's carry on going. Now, we are going to be saying goodbye to you at Winter Oak High. I just want to say thank you to all you little minds for joining us today, and we hope to catch you again another day, or when you're a little bit older, we'll still be walking around you hopefully. So wherever you are, have a good day. We'll see you again.
Look here everybody, some zebra. Isn't that fantastic? Just a quick little view as they're moving through the thicket. Also looking for some shade. And look how well camouflaged they are. And that means it's difficult for us to see them. They blend in very well. Those beautiful black and white stripes, just a quick little view of them. Let's have a look and see if I can't have another view for you, or get another view for you. Let's just see, can see more or less where they're moving. It's lovely to see some zebra. Maybe through there. Hold on a second. I'll ask Dave if he can have a look through there. Can you get them? Maybe a little more off to the right, or to the left actually. Sorry Dave, to the left. See, it's very difficult for us sometimes to get these animals on camera for you. I think some of them might be a little bit shy. There we go. There you can see them. Well done, Dave. Isn't that fantastic? So for those viewers who have just joined us, we've got another school drive this afternoon with the kids from Windsor Oaks Elementary. It's always lovely to have young kids watching and sending us their questions and comments. Oh, looks like there was some kicking there. And zebra can get quite aggressive with each other. Well, often the stallions may fight each other for a bit of dominance, but usually what happens is a stallion will have a harem. He'll have a number of females that he will look after and try and cover and then mate with. So I'm not sure in that group if there was another younger stallion. Perhaps occasionally the younger stallions might try and challenge the older ones, but they can get quite aggressive. Even the females will just get aggressive towards the males if the males get a little bit too close, and they'll often turn and give a double kick. They've got incredibly powerful kicks. You've got to be so careful. And zebra do cause a lot of damage towards each other, either biting or kicking. We've just lost them now. They've moved deeper into the bush and we can't see them anymore. We've been lucky. We've seen some really nice antelope. Oh, and there's a beautiful bird I'd like to show you quickly. It's just landed at the top of the tree off to the right. A magpie shrike. That beautiful long tail and black and white markings on it. It's called a magpie shrike. Look how well it balances in the wind on top of that acacia tree. And you can see all those sharp thorns on that acacia tree. A number of different species of acacia, but they all have thorns. And that bird is balancing beautifully in the wind with that tail flowing behind it, or blowing behind it. You see how it's sitting with its beak open. And the reason for that, and let's just close it now, the reason for that is it's trying to cool itself. In very warm conditions, these birds open their beaks, and it's known as gular flutter. They allow cool wind, or that breeze, to flow through their beak, and there's a flap, a gular flap, which allows them to regulate their body temperature. That wind over that flap helps to cool the body and cool the temperature. Very beautiful. Lovely. So we're going to continue our search for more animals. We're heading towards another waterhole, possibly going to get some action around there. It is warm, as we said earlier. And while I do that, let's get an update from Taylor.
You've caught me in the act of reversing, and I'm trying to get out of this drainage line. We're having a look at Tingana's last known location from this morning. So it sounds like he did settle down in that very, very dense thicket. Sorry, I'm just trying to multitask. Here we go, almost out. And I've just checked that spot, and it seems as though he's not there anymore, but I don't see any tracks coming out just yet. So possibly he was walking in that drainage line, which we saw him do quite a bit, well, the brief sighting that we had of him this morning. So I just want to cut up a little bit further, and there's a little dip where the drainage line and this road sort of meet together, and this is a nice soft sandy road, so technically I should be able to pick up on his tracks quite easily. However, I'm also checking along the bank, so I apologize if I don't look back at all of you. I want to make sure that I don't miss him, because you won't believe those leopard spots, they blend in so well. Right, let's go down here. Just checking. I don't think he would have gone particularly too far. He had a full belly and he was hot, and it's been hot the entire day. Now, my experience with big male leopards is that they like to move when it's slightly cooler. And let's hope that that is exactly what has happened, and he hasn't gone too far. We'll just check here. It's so much cooler down in this drainage. I don't blame him for wanting to sit down here. Didn't see anything as we came through here, but we'll carry on with this fire break just for a little bit longer. Just check the soft sandy section. Nope, doesn't look like anything's happened here. Just a couple of impala that have been walking through by the looks of it. We'll have to just check very carefully, and I do hope we manage to find him. He's such a beautiful leopard, and I haven't really had the opportunity to spend much time with him. I've seen him once during the marathon week, the Mara week that we did. Had a little view of him. He was calling quite a bit. And then I've seen him twice, sort of just after drive has ended, very briefly. And then of course this morning was my first proper sighting of him during the day. Now let's check here, because there's another little thicket. Could be a good spot. Can you hear the black-headed oriole? Can you see it over there, Viam? There we go. Look at this beautiful black-headed oriole that's calling. Ah, just stopped for a little hello. Now he's off, carrying on with business. Now, Sally, you want to know, do we ever see any cheetah on Djuma? I haven't seen any since I've been here, but I haven't been here for particularly long, just yet, almost 2 months. And I definitely think that you could. There's a couple of open areas, and in the winter months especially, all this bush sort of dies down, and then most of it becomes quite open. But they seem to like cheetah plains a lot. There's a pair of brothers that we've seen on a regular basis over the last few months. And we saw them a couple of nights ago, actually, which was quite nice. My first time seeing those brothers. But they move over quite a big area from sort of Londolozi, Mala, right up towards Cheetah Plains. So those are good areas. So if I get any wind that there are perhaps cheetah, well, we know where I'm going. I'm going to shoot across to, of course, Cheetah Plains. But it's not impossible. I've heard the other presenters say that they have seen cheetah indeed on Djuma, sort of coming around the corner, being surprised. But, oh, there we go. VM has just said that he's seen cheetah on quarantine before. It's a beautiful area for cheetah, and there's always lots of impala. So it's something good to look out for now. Unfortunately, I haven't seen any tracks just yet, but oh wow, I'm not going to give up just yet on the search for Tingana, but let's go back across, and I'm so envious as to what Byron has found.
I have found something very interesting, and look at this. Can anybody spot something unusual at this waterhole? That is right. Look at that very, very white piece of foam above the water. That is incredible. This is great. So, as some of our viewers know, we had a really big storm about 2 nights ago, and a lot of these water holes filled up. So what that has caused is a lot of animals and little creatures, little insects and reptiles, all getting very active because of all the water. And what that is a foam nest frog, or foam nest frog's nest rather. and it gets its name foam nest frog because of this beautiful foam nest that it builds. And it's an incredible story. So what happens is the males and females will call, and that's how they find each other, and especially the females will call, and the male will try and attract the female by calling and also putting on a bit of a display. And then what he does is the female will go and crawl up to the top of a branch, usually above water, and I'll explain why shortly. And she'll sit right on top of these branches, and the reason for that is then the males are attracted to her and they will try and mate with her, and not just one male. Occasionally it may be 2 or 3 males around this female, and they try and move around and try and fertilize the eggs which the female secretes. With all this liquid that's around her and all that movement, it starts to foam up and it forms this beautiful foam nest. What happens is that then protects the eggs. The eggs sit inside this nest. The adult frogs then leave, and the eggs sit inside that nest. And that foam is said to be a bit distasteful, so it prevents predators from raiding the nest. And it takes about 7 to 10 days for the eggs to hatch, and those little tadpoles then wriggle down and drop straight into that water hole. And that's why they build a nest or form that nest always above little water holes like this, so that the tadpoles can then drop straight into the water and live and survive until they eventually become frogs. Isn't that amazing? That is so great. It's the first one of the season for me, and I doubt many people have seen too many of them, because we've just had some rain and we've moved out of that dry season. That is great. That is really, really fantastic. And foam nest frog. I love seeing these little things, these little creatures that we don't often get to see. Every now and then, depending on the time of the year and the changing of the seasons, you start seeing more and more of this activity, especially in summer. A lot more rainfall, a lot more insects, which means food for those types of animals, food for the frogs. It's really a wonderful time of year. All the birds are back, the migratory birds. And James has made a comment and said, hopefully we get to see the frogs sometime soon. I hope so too, James. That'll be great. We do occasionally find them at night. If you're lucky, you can find them sitting on the trees. But it is quite difficult. So maybe one evening we should go and sit close to a waterhole and just hear all the frogs, maybe after the next rains. As soon as it rains again, if we go and sit there, perhaps we'll get lucky and see some frog activity. We hear them, but they're very difficult to see occasionally. And Paul has made a comment, and Paul has said he wonders why nature hasn't colored that foam green, perhaps to blend in with the trees. Good question, Paul. But you know what often happens, and we have this with certain species of insects. I think that it's bright white so that it can stand out, so that animals actually think it's probably poisonous. Usually bright colors are associated with poison. It's known as aposematic coloring, and what that is, it means is that these bright colors, and you see it usually with butterflies like African monarch, they're very distasteful and poisonous, so animals don't eat them because of these bright colors. They then associate poison with those bright colors, so I'm assuming that possibly that bright white stands out a lot, and the chances of animals then going and looking to feed on that nest or raid the nest are a lot slimmer. So the chances that those tadpoles will survive are far better. So that would be my guess. I think probably because it's associated with poison. It's really warm out here, and I wonder how Steph is doing on his walk in this heat.
I'm also very hot, Byron. Thank you very much. It's a blistering day here today, and it's just one of those first days of summer as it's coming along. Now, we're busy trawling the same as Byron. We're busy trawling all the water points that we know of. And these are still quite full, I must say, after the little bit of rain that we managed to have. The amount of water that is collected in these depressions is actually astonishing. Most of these depressions are at least knee deep, and they are almost full. Let's see what we can do. There's now all this life coming into these depressions, from tadpoles to terrapins to dragonflies. Lots of wasps, excuse me, I almost fell over. Lots of wasps are collecting mud from the corners or the edges of the pan to build their nest, mud dauber wasps, or delta wasps as we call them here. So these pans are starting to become these nodes, these life bubbles basically, and it's just going to be so interesting to watch them evolve over the coming weeks, because they have a life. They start out young like this one is, and has their algae and detritus, and then they sort of mature into these clear pans and generally just end up being mud baths for buffalo, rhino and elephant by the end of the season. But just a wonderful thing to spend some time with. Now, they look cool enough to get into, and of course it would be wonderful to go and soak inside one of these, but it would ruin my microphone and I wouldn't want to get out, so that would sort of be the end of the safari for me this afternoon. See if we can get this dragonfly here. I don't know, no, it's going to be a little bit difficult. There's a dragonfly that is on our side over here. Just have a look at that. Basically just using the wind to create lift, not flapping much at all, staking claim over this particular pan and hawking for insects. They catch the insects in these basket-like front legs of theirs. Here's another one. Oh, he was just chased away. Now let's see if this one comes back. Yes, coming back. That's actually a different one. Oh, it's just so peaceful here at the moment. I must be honest with you, one of the true pleasures. Here we go, here he's back again. What's quite incredible is that they're coming to one side of the pan, the downwind side, using the wind to slowly flit their way across, and then come buzzing back again to this side. Yeah, they're having a dance with one another. Let's see if they turn around again and come back. Yeah, they come back again, right back past us, yeah. It's a real challenge for Brian to keep these in view. I must be honest with you, they are some of probably the most difficult subjects to film. Very hard to predict where they're going to be going. And of course, and just the one species I see, just this yellowy kind of one. But anyway, let's carry on with our safari and make life a little bit easier for Brian. While we stood here and were looking at the dragonfly, or why we actually hid behind the bushes and came to this pan in the first place, was we spied some kudu that were just in front of us over here, and I'm wanting to see if we cannot see them. Kudu can be very, very difficult to spot in the bush because they're the same color as the surrounding grays of the branches and the twigs, and they have those wonderful stripy sides with the dots of white on them that give them this sort of dappled stripy look when you're viewing them in vegetation like this. I'm hoping we can sneak a little bit closer. Let's see if we can. We're using the road here because it's nice and quiet to walk on. It's a bit easier than trying to brush our way through all the ponds. I don't see those kudu anymore. They probably heard us coming a mile away. They've got ears very similar to me, but unlike myself, who's near deaf, they can hear much better. Even our whispers at that pan were probably very clearly audible to these kudu. Now, what we have got to watch out for in these pans and these series of pans as we approach them is buffalo. And I think Byron has got himself a buffalo, probably hopefully in one of these pans. You can see what they do.
I do indeed have some buffalo, Steph. They are really planted in this little mud wallow. Look at that. just as I thought, with all this heat and the bit of rain that we had, all these mud wallows have filled up these little pans, and animals like the buffalo love to wallow in them. These are two old bulls known as Daga boys, and Daga comes from the Zulu word for umdaga, which means mud. And you can see why they get that name. These old males love to roll around in the mud. And the reason for that is it cools them down and also protects their skin from insects like ticks and fleas. And aren't they enjoying that? It looks very, very comfortable and cool in there, in the water. Oh, look at that. That's fantastic. Really, really is lovely. Old males like this don't like to move around too much. They choose to find areas where there's good food and water, and that they don't have to cover large distances like the massive herds that we get passing through here. They'll move huge distances looking for food and water. So what happens is these old bulls often split away from the herd, and they'll form these small bachelor groups, anywhere between 2 up to 10 or 15 males sometimes, depending on food and water availability. And then what happens is they like to hang around in pools like this, and they don't have to walk as far. But if the herds do come past again, these males may try and meet up with them and possibly try and mate with the females if they are around, and then eventually leave them again and move off on their own. Can imagine there's a bit of a cool breeze at the moment, and I think with this cool breeze and these buffalo lying in the mud and in the wallow, it's perfect for them at the moment. Perfect conditions, really comfortable, really cool, and I'm actually very jealous of them, I must be honest, because it is very, very hot, and they seem completely relaxed and happy over there. They hardly move. Every now and then you might see that they actually roll onto their backs or roll over, and all that does is just covers the back again, cools it down. Interestingly enough, while they're in these little mud wallows, we have little terrapins. And we've got these little terrapins which are freshwater turtles, and they will actually feed off the ticks on the buffalo while these buffalo are lying in the mud wallows. It's very, very interesting. The terrapins love feeding on the ticks, and as these animals like these buffalo lie there, then they'll go and feed on them. And Paul has asked us a question. Paul would like to know, what is the average lifespan of a buffalo? So Paul, it's a bit tricky to say. It depends if they meet up with lions or not. And as we've seen the last few days, the buffalo have not been very successful against lions. Lions have been hunting them and doing very well at that, because the buffalo aren't feeding as much and they're a little bit weaker. So the lions have been very successful in killing buffalo. But generally speaking, the lifespan of a buffalo is probably around 20 to 22 years. That's usually how old they may get. And again, I say that's an average. It all depends. If they get hunted, if they get diseases from at an earlier age, that may cause them to die a little bit earlier. But that would be an average. They really don't look like they're going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Oh, and we are going to probably leave these buffalo and let them enjoy their mud wallow. While I do that, I'm very jealous, but Taylor has got a big surprise for you.
Look who we've managed to come across, all thanks to Mike and his eagle eyes. Coming back to exactly where he last was. So when we last saw him this morning, he's actually moved back to where we initially saw him, and you can see how he's tucked himself away underneath all those shrubs and a fallen tree. But not even this little bit of shade that he's found himself can cool the king. You can see him panting quite heavily. There we go. It was a Looked like a Jacobin cuckoo that flew over the top of us. Sorry, I don't know if you heard that noise. Obviously, with my butterfly syndrome, it caught my attention. Only I could get distracted by a bird while we were looking at a leopard. But anyway, back to Tingana. Isn't he a lovely boy? Now, I'm hoping that it cools down quite quickly this afternoon. It is extremely hot, and so hopefully he will get up. But perhaps with that large belly that we saw him with this morning, that might not be on the cards for this afternoon. But we'll just hang around and see and hopefully he moves. Something that I absolutely love about his face, and hopefully he looks towards us again, are those beautiful markings between his eyes. They really are sort of quite unique, almost forming like a cross on his head. An X marks the spot. Can you see that? That's really beautiful. And I was looking through photos of Tingana today, and that was something that caught my attention. Seen as though we've been speaking about identifying features of the various leopards in the area. Look at the size of his dewlap, though. It really is quite impressive. And that's normally an indication of maturity. Not all leopards get it. I have seen some older boys who don't really have a well-developed dewlap. But of course, male leopards like the Anderson male and of course Impala, the two contenders for the largest leopards in the sands, they have got massive dewlaps. Something seems to be biting him. You can see the flies are obviously annoying him quite a bit. Now I'm getting a nice suntan here in the sun this afternoon. Shame he's getting very frustrated with all these flies. There are lots of midges around. The ants have started to release their alates, so they're all out as well. Now, you probably can hear him shuffling around and kicking his legs quite a bit there. Maybe there's some ants or something crawling on him. Now, Birthday Bash, you're wondering how old Tingana is. For the top of my head, I can't remember, but something wants me to say around 9 years old. Am I correct? Mike, do you know how old he is? Yeah, I also heard 19. There we go. So Mike and I have got some telepathic connections going on at the moment that we think somewhere between 9 and 10 years old. He's not a young boy, of course. You can see when he opens his mouth, his canines are definitely not as sharp and pointy as they were when he was maybe 5 years old. And you can see he's got a couple of scars on his face. He's definitely well worn, or he's got lots of experience to show on his skin. You can see his ears are a little bit tattered as well. Looks like he's got an old scar across his nose, perhaps from an altercation that he had with another male leopard. Maybe Mvula got on the wrong side of him. Ah, okay, maybe even Shadow, maybe even a female leopard. They can be quite feisty sometimes and give the odd swipe. Thanks, VM. But at least he's sitting still this time, and he hasn't got his head tucked between his legs, fast asleep. And maybe it was a reason as to why we only got a sneak and a little sneak peek of him this morning, so that we were able to go around and have a look at the young Ingrid's dam female. And then, of course, now, well, Tingana, the show is yours. Look at him, he's so beautiful. If I had air conditioning or a fan for him, I'd definitely hold it over him. I'm so happy to hear that you're all sending in all your screenshots. That's fantastic. Remember, if you'd like to also ask any questions or just share your pictures with us or your favorite moments, you're welcome to do so by either hashtagging Safari Live on Twitter, or alternatively, you could send us an email, questions@WildEarth.tv. That's lovely. And I'm sure he's enjoying the rest after Shadow has been trying to follow him around over the past couple of weeks. Oh, he's having a well-deserved break. I'm just very quickly going to apply some more sunscreen. Sorry, I'm sitting directly in the sun and I'm burning away. But while I do that, I think let's go back across to Steph for a very quick update.
It is an incredibly hot day. It definitely warrants sunscreen today, and we all know how much I love playing with elephant dung and fire. They're almost two of my favorite things. And while you've seen me make some fire with a flint stone or a fire steel, I haven't shown you any other ways to make fire, well, barring of course matches and a lighter. But just have a look at how intense today's sun is. Here's a magnifying glass, sort of standard issue. Have a look at how quickly we can get smoke going here. Concentrate. Just get it going a little bit. And then all we do is we add a little bit of oxygen. And we have flame. It's incredible, eh? All just from the power of the sun. Of course, you can add some dried leaves and grass to that and it puffs into flame pretty quick. But that isn't the only way you can make flame out here. Obviously we can do it with any piece of glass. Doesn't necessarily need to be a magnifying glass, just a bit easier with a magnifying glass. But using some pretty normal household chemicals that you have around the house, you can also produce a decent enough flame. Build yourself a receptacle out of whatever you need. This is just my elephant dung. Add a little bit of this. A decent amount, not too much. Close up again. Introduce this in the form of a drop or two. And then what we do is we just wait for the reaction with another piece of fuel. And let's see, there we go. And voila, you have your flame. Here we go. Fire 101 using some simple chemicals just that you find around the house. Pretty cool. Excuse me, I've got a piece of ash that flicked up into my eye there. But very, very effective. Amazing, eh? All these little tips and tricks around here. And that is alternative fire methods. Sort of 101. I'm going to send you over to Byron, who's got a hippo for you.
Oh no. And we've just got to Buffelshoek Dam, everybody. And there was some Impala that just came down to drink. Have a look at that. Beautiful male over there, and there's the female. And they had a nice drink of water, and now they're moving off. And then we've also got the resident hippo here at Buffelshoek Dam. And there it is, and that's where you'd expect to see a hippo, not walking around the bush like we saw earlier. And have a look closely. Look at that little terrapin on its back. Fantastic, look at that. That is great. Wow. Remember I spoke about the terrapins feeding off the ticks off of these animals. They do it off hippo too. So if there are any ticks on the hippo, these terrapins will swim around underneath and feed on those ticks and pick the ticks off. I'm sure if we get a lot more rain, this hippo will be very, very happy, because this dam will most likely increase in depth, have a lot more water flowing into here, and then it'll probably be completely submerged, which is great. And there's a lot happening here. Just off to the right, right across in front of us, we can see some kudu. Look at that. And I wonder if they possibly didn't have a drink just before we got here, and they may be moving around to go and feed again. There's a young male on the left. See those horns, still quite small. Not those beautiful large spiral horns that we usually see on the big males, and that's a female without the horns. Really lovely to sit here and watch all these animals around the water. And that's what I said to you right in the beginning. I said our plan is to check these water holes. If you're lucky, we might get a leopard or two around, but we weren't lucky. Taylor was, but we have been seeing a lot. We saw hippo out the water, just moving from one little water hole or mud wallow. We saw 2 buffalo wallowing, and now this hippo and the nyala drinking, and the kudu. If we're quiet, maybe these... Looks like these kudu want to come and drink. Let's see, look how they're all moving down. Oh, this is great, everyone. This is really, really great. I'm going to keep my voice down a bit. If we sit quietly, maybe they'll go down to drink. You must remember, these animals are all very, very aware and alert when they approach water, because they are vulnerable when their heads are down and they're drinking. So they are just very, very careful when they do approach water holes, because they know there's a possibility that there's some predators waiting in the bushes nearby, especially on hot days. Okay, look, they're going down to drink. Fantastic. Roger's just made a comment and said that they are such beautiful animals. They are indeed, Roger. Really amazing, graceful antelope. Look at that, they're all coming down. This is quite a large herd of kudu. Lisa has asked what waterhole we are at. Lisa, this is Buffelshoek Dam. And look how full it is because of the rain we had the other night. Can you believe it? From just 4 days ago, this was a tiny little pool of water just in the corner, and it's filled up. So I'm sure all these animals are very happy. Look at that. Oh, there's perfect light on them now too. Look at those big pink ears. And that's because they've got such a great sense of smell. Sorry, they've got such a great sense of hearing. Their sense of smell is also very good, but their sense of hearing is incredible. And those large ears always turning and listening out for potential danger. See that wonderful reflection. Look at that. If you were a photographer now, you'd be having a field day. Looks like these kudu are going to drink one by one and then probably move on. I'm going to sit here for a few more minutes, but while I do that, Steph has got something venomous he'd like to show you.
And there is an old faithful that we've had throughout the year so far, the olive thick-tailed scorpion, the most common venomous scorpion that we find here at Djuma Private Game Reserve, and also one that is responsible for stinging the most people in this particular area. It ranks right up there as about double or triple the pain of a bee sting when you do get stung by one of these guys. And generally you get stung by these scorpions when you're collecting firewood or jiggling a piece of wood around in a fire. So the heat has chased out the scorpion from its cavity or underneath its log, and it's then resting underneath the log and your fingers touch it. Usually you get stung between 2 and 3 times. They sting in rapid succession. And although that looks small, let me put my finger next to it so that you can see it is actually quite a small scorpion. Not a very big one at all, but this body length probably about as the size of my thumb nail, and then the tail probably about double that, stretched out fully. So quite a small scorpion in actual fact, but one that packs an unbelievable punch. By far not the most deadly scorpion that we find here. That belongs to the black hairy thick-tailed scorpion, and that scorpion is easily about 5 or 6 times bigger than this one and packs a much more deadly punch. Now I know this is an olive thick-tailed scorpion. I don't know if you can see that olivey sheen, olive sheen that it has to its legs and its tail, and also the bands on its legs are quite evident. It has these light and dark colored bands on its tail, belonging to the genus Europlectes, and then its species name is olivaceus or olivaceus, the olive thick-tailed scorpion. And this scorpion will be hunting for woodlice, crickets, lizards, anything that basically it can overpower and catch, and it will grab with its pincers, sting quickly with its tail. The tail then, or the poison in the tail, or the venom in the tail, quickly immobilizes the prey and starts the digestive process outside of the scorpion's body, liquefying the insides. The scorpion then uses its pincers to dismember the carcass and will eat basically everything, barring sometimes the most or the hardest, the most chitinous of the exoskeleton. They will sometimes discard, but generally speaking most of its prey is eaten. Very fast scorpions, very fast moving scorpions, even though you tend to find them in the same places underneath these woods. They don't really move from woodpile to woodpile. Young scorpions of course would, but older ones not really. Now we're going to put him back where we found him, underneath this log. I hear that I've created a bit of debate on what two chemicals are mixed, or household chemicals are mixed to create that spark. And I think what I'll do is I'll leave it as a bit of a riddle for us to think out, giving you clues every now and again, and potentially I'll tell you by the end of the show. So what I can tell you is there are two chemicals that are abundant, they're easy to get over the counter in supermarkets, and they are used generally as an antiseptic. And let's see if you can guess what they are. So easily obtainable over the counter at your local supermarket, very cheap, used as an antiseptic, should be able to get you halfway there. You're welcome to send of course your answers through to questions@WildEarth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLive, and I'll share some of them, or well, I'll share some of your guesses or your answers with everybody as well, and then we'll see about telling you what they were a bit later on. You know, you never know when you're going to be stuck out in the bush with a chemist next to you and you need to all of a sudden make a fire. One of those things. All right, it gives us a chance now to carry on. I think we've been in this particular area now probably for the last 25 or 30 minutes, and there's another series of pans down this particular road and also into the block when we are heading out in this direction. I was just telling Brian that in January, when all of these little depressions are full of water, you can expect a buffalo to lie up in these depressions. Now this is almost an exact buffalo size, or probably 2 buffalo sized depression, and is created literally out of elephants digging up some roots, probably at the base of these trees here somewhere. There's some root systems that got here. Elephants would dig it up, it would fill with a bit of water, warthog would go in there, buffalo would go in there, rhino would go in there, and all of a sudden you've got this bigger depression. It starts to wash off the clay and the mud on those bodies, and it'll start to cement the bottom of these depressions, which keeps water in there longer. And of course that's how pans start to develop. Every year the buffalo will come down and make it a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, eventually getting to the water table, and of course that's when it becomes a natural pan. An almost permanent pan is when the water table then, it gets so low that it's the bottom of the pan is lower than the top of the water table, if that makes any sense. Sounded a bit confusing to me as well. Anyway, we're going to carry on and we'll basically see what is lying around these next pans. We're going to send you over to Taylor, who's got an update for you.
Now, Thankfully, Tingana got up and he actually moved out of that little cool spot that he was sitting in, which was had a couple of leaves hiding his face, and now we've got an even better view of him. But he still looks rather hot, but at least he hasn't gone back to sleep yet, and hopefully he won't. I think he is just waiting as the sun drops, and it is doing that very quickly. We know how quickly that sun disappears behind the horizon, and finally there's actually a cool breeze coming through now, which I am enjoying very much, and I think VM is appreciating it too. Tingana, I don't know if you're getting this lovely breeze we're getting because you're so low and down in the drainage, but I suppose at least he's out of the sun. You can't have everything. No, don't go back to sleep. Keep those eyes open, as we would like to see some action. And I'm so glad that finally we've got the leopards back. Hopefully this will be the start of some type of a trend, and Karula will come back with her cubs, and perhaps we'll see Shadow. I've only ever seen Shadow once at the very beginning when I first started here at Wild Earth, and I haven't seen her since. I think it was actually in the first week. You can see the flies are bothering him terribly, even his tail is going. Come on, use it as a swatter. You're not swatting very well. Here we go. Must be something biting him, because it seems as though whatever's going after him, it seems to be around his rear end. Hello, Willow, who is 4 years old. Willow, I hope you're enjoying watching this show. Isn't it amazing that we're sitting with this big, beautiful leopard? Now, Willow wants to know, will he growl at the flies? I don't think so. I think he'll pull a couple of faces, and of course you can see he gets a little bit irritated with all those flies. He's kicking his legs around and swatting his tail and trying to bite them. Look at him doing all these crazy things. Now he's trying to swat them with his paws, but I don't think he'll growl at them too much. There we go. What are you going to do? Oh, I thought he was going to get up again for us. But at least I'm really happy that he's decided to come out, and I think he sat on some nice sort of cool soil. If I were him, I would try and find the part of the drainage that's still a bit damp from the rain that we had, and I think that would be a nice spot to go and sit. Perhaps he will move though with all these insects biting him. He looks to be very frustrated at the moment. I'm still panting really hard trying to cool down. Don't worry, Mr. Tingana, it won't be too long before it gets nice and cool and you'll be able to carry on with your day. And hopefully we'll be able to spend a bit of time with Tingana this afternoon and see what he gets up to. You know what I'm like? I like to sit and watch the animals sleep, of course, to only be rewarded with them up and moving around. Now, Janine, you're wondering if any of the big cats purr. You know who purrs really well? It's those cheetah. They purr so loudly it almost sounds like a car engine rumbling. But unfortunately, we don't really hear the leopards and the lions purring. They do make all sorts of strange noises, and perhaps, maybe it's something I'll do a little bit later for you. I don't want to do it right here when a Tingana is sitting just a couple of meters away. But perhaps I'll do my leopard call for you, and you can tell me, or maybe we'll have a challenge today. Maybe we can challenge Steph and Byron to leopard calls, and we can see who does it the best. Like I said, though, I won't be able to do it right here. So I can imagine it would probably upset Tingana a little bit, and of course, we don't want to do that. It's so hot at the moment that the birds aren't even wasting their time singing away. It only seems to be the couple of flies that are annoying me and annoying Tingana. And of course the cicadas in the very far distance. But even they seem few and far between today. Now Andrew wants to know who VM's favourite leopard character is. VM, who's your favourite leopard?
That's a tough one.
VM says it's a tough one. He's now pondering.
Well, I suppose Tingana is too much at the top.
Well, Andrew, we are actually sitting with Viam's favourite leopard at the moment. He says that it is indeed a Tingana, and I don't blame him. He's a beautiful leopard. I still have yet to see the Anderson male, and I can't wait for that day. I probably will get out after the sighting and do handstands and cartwheels for anybody that's willing to watch. And I've been practicing my cartwheels, so they're getting more and more graceful by the day. But I think we're going to have to start doing rain dances again. As the rain, just the clouds keep building up, we get a bit of lightning and then we're not getting any more. Well, it's getting hot enough, as you can see. It's so bright and so sunny here. Now, I'm very happy, like I said, that we've managed to find Tingana this afternoon, and I know he's just sitting not doing very much at the moment. But one thing that you have to remember when you do come on safari is you have to be patient. If you want to see the action, you've got to be willing to sit and be prepared. Just even if you sit quietly and watch, you don't have to say much, and just enjoy it until those exciting moments unravel. But let's see what he's up to, if those flies are still pestering him. And I apologize if you can hear some squeaking. We've parked at a very odd angle. I'm sort of parked on a slope of a drainage line, and I keep squeaking on the steering wheel. You can see those flies on the top of his left ear on our right-hand side of the screen. Well, they were sitting there now. And like I was saying, the flies that are around at the moment seem to be biting. They were biting me yesterday, and I actually got stung by something in my eye this morning while on drive, while lurking around Arathusa. I don't know what it was. It could have actually been, I don't actually know what it was. It was a funny looking thing, and I think that's probably a variety of different insects that are coming out or after those rains. So if my eye looks a little bit red today, it's because I got stung and I'm having a little bit of an allergic reaction, but don't worry, I'll be alright. You can see lots and lots of flies buzzing around him. Now, I was surprised that he didn't go and scavenge on one of those buffalo carcasses that we've been seeing over the last couple of days, because he wasn't far. Apparently he was in Torchwood, not too far away from Cheetah cut line. And of course we had the one carcass just off Drakensberg Road, the buffalo that died from the injury that he sustained from another buffalo. And then of course that the youngish buffalo that we saw off Mamba Road, which the lions were feeding on one morning and one afternoon. I thought that he probably would have picked up the scent and headed straight in that direction. Right, let's very quickly go across to Byron.
Taylor's got a leopard, and look what we've just found, this beautiful lioness. I'm surprised she's walking around because it is still so warm. We're almost across from the Vuyatela. Look at that, she walked right past us. And I think this is the female that we found this morning. Let's turn around quickly. Just trying to see where the male is. The male was with her earlier. Just gonna have a quick turn around here and just see if we can't see the male. No, I don't see him. It's maybe too hot for him to walk around. But let's see, there's a lot of Impala in that direction that female's walked, but she is out in the open. The chances of her hunting now are probably very slim, and they've seen her already. They've already started to alarm call at her. You may hear the alarm calls as we get closer. Hang on a second, I think I can hear them, and all the Impala off to the left. And just have a look at this behavior. It's very, very interesting. Here we go. Oh, look there. There's another lioness and male straight ahead. So this is a different lioness, everybody. Oh, wow, this is exciting. That is the pair that we found this morning, that male and female. Now it'll be interesting to see the interaction. There's actually so much going on here. I just quickly want to show you, just to the left, look at these Impala, how they are alarm calling. Listen to them. You hear that? But look how they're all walking towards the lions. and let me catch up to this female and I'll tell you why. So what they're doing is they want to make sure they don't lose sight of this lioness, because lions are generally ambush predators. So if the impala can see the lions, there's little chance of them surprising them and potentially hunting them. So what they do is they walk after the lions to make sure they can see them and therefore avoid being surprised. And also that alarm calling will then hopefully deter them and cause them to move off, because then they know they've been seen, so they lose that element of surprise. Have a look here, let's watch this interaction. Oh wow, this is fantastic. Yeah, exactly. Greeting one another, rubbing up against each other. Let's see what the male does. This could be interesting. Now he's got two females around him. Smiling. He may do that phlegm and grimace that we... Not quite. No, not quite. But look at that, and that other lioness has just carried on. So, I have absolutely no idea what just happened and why that lioness is moving. That is incredible. I've never seen that before. Just gonna sit still while this lioness walks past us. Wow, right next to us. And here comes the male. What you may scent mark. Oh, there we go, exactly, look at that. Spraying some urine, and what he does is he scratches the soil. So what he is doing is he's exposing the fresh soil, and that will then cause that scent to last a little bit longer. So he scent marked this bush right next to us, this little bush. Now I actually don't know what we should do. We should follow that other lioness, but judging by where she's going, she's walked off into that drainage line. It's very thick down there, we won't be able to get there or follow her down there. And I know they did have the rest of the pride this morning briefly, and they did move through into that thick drainage line. They're possibly not too far from there, and maybe she is just going to join up with them. Let's stick with these two and see where they're going. They're very close to these impala. This was the lioness we saw almost kill an Impala this morning, but I think